All right, well, Chris and Karissa, I just want to say thanks for doing this. First of all, like your guys' time is precious. I know I've been on enough of these sites that guys like you are hard to pin down. So I appreciate your time and welcome to the show.
Thank
you.
Cool. I'd like to start off, like I was saying a minute ago, getting to know you guys. So maybe Chris, start off like where you're from. Let me know a little bit about your past, where you come from.
Sure. My name's Chris Bruner. Born and raised in Texas. Evacuated and went to Alaska. So I traveled quite a bit from here to home. Started out in oil fields, then housing. When the housing market crashed in 2008, I landed here. I already knew how to build subdivisions and road work and stuff like that, so I just took my skills and moved it over here to the wind side. It was still early, back in '08 when this all got started, so I got involved then.
What part of Texas did you come from?
Abilene.
Okay. Why did you choose Alaska?
I have family there. I've been going there since I was in grade school and going to summers, visit my uncle. I don't know, something about that state hooked in me, and I just can't stay out of it.
What's something about Alaska that you love?
The freedom.
You like getting left alone?
Exactly.
Is that a part of
Well,
who you are deeply?
Yeah, she's into my hometown, and you can drive from there to Anchorage and maybe past 10 people.
Yeah.
Maybe. So my family would kind of like to be left alone, so where I feel comfortable at.
I can relate with you a little bit. I come from a small forestry mining town in central British Columbia, Canada. Spent a lot of time working in northern BC, a little bit of time playing ice hockey in Anchorage.
Yep.
Know the area. You a hunter?
Occasionally when I get off, but mainly right now just fish. I love to fish. I love the salmon runs, or she knows I'm out of here in summer. I'm going home. So I leave out in May and drive home, come back, do it again. That's what I enjoy right now.
Cool. Karissa, where are you from?
I'm from Southwest New Mexico, about 4.5 hours from here, a town called Lordsburg, pretty small little town. I ended up taking a summer job, and that was 10 years ago. So just kind of liked Blattner, and so just stuck with it and have worked my way up.
How did you choose that summer job? Like did the opportunity just land on your plate and you're like, hey, I'm just going to try this out? And what was the job?
My dad worked for the company at the time, and so I was living in Albuquerque, and that was in Hereford, Texas, and they were looking for an admin, and so I just went over there and was like, oh yeah, I can do this for a bit, and just kind of liked it, liked the people, and they asked me to, stay on and keep working, so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And
That's where we met.
yeah,
You met on a Blattner project?
on that.
On that project
Yeah.
when she first started.
What was that project?
Hereford Wind in
Yeah.
Hereford, Texas.
Give some context to it.
There was nothing there.
Yeah, it's in the beef capital of Texas is
Yeah,
what they
just-
call it. It smells terrible.
Oh,
It's like the worst smell you will ever
Just
encounter.
shit.
Yeah.
it's bad. It's bad.
And everyone was like, oh, it's the smell of money. So that's,
All
we're
right.
like, okay.
And here we're trying to put a wind farm in the middle of it. It was interesting.
You just started to blow that smell everywhere else.
Yeah.
Bad. It was bad. But yeah, I remember when she started.
And I remember Chris, because he's pretty ornery.
I was a foreman back then for the company, so
So how was your guys' working relationship on that then? Like how did you guys work together?
not then. She was office bound. I was
That's just
field
where you
bound,
met.
and we'd just collide, during paperwork or whatever. But yeah.
So how did that move then to the next?
So we probably parted ways for a few years.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we worked on a job in
Not
between
till
that.
we landed here.
Yeah, so the project we did before SunZia here is Western Spirit, just north of us, and we got here in May of 2020 and built that job, kind of waited around here doing some other work in between, and then we started SunZia, so we've been joined at the hip for 5 years now.
What's growing up in New Mexico like?
Well, I lived in a small town, so there's not a whole lot to do, so you kind of just make your own fun, hang out in the desert, four-wheelers, ATV type stuff, or just getting out. Not a lot of water either, so we don't have much for fishing or anything like that, but just really making your own fun. Shooting guns, whatever, finding anything to entertain yourself, really.
What is New Mexico? What else is New Mexico known for?
Well, green chili is like what we're, our pride and joy.
Nice.
I don't know. I
Cool.
mean, just a lot of open space. So I think if you like outdoor stuff, there's a lot of places for hiking and that sort of thing. But
Chris, why this industry?
At that moment when I started, it was either feast or famine. So you have to make a decision, but kind of like her, once I got started in, I was like, well, this isn't so bad. I can handle this. And I was already used to running crews, working in Prudhoe Bay, you learn real quick how to manage people and deal with time and deal with nothing around. So isolation doesn't bother her. It doesn't bother me. We kind of grew up in it. That's what we know. This industry, was new when I got in it. It was exciting. It was just new. And I just stuck with it. I mean, I'm comfortable here. I hate to say this, but these guys I work with every day, they're more family to me than the family I got at home. And I shouldn't say that, but that's the God honest truth. I spend more time with these folks than I do with my own.
It's definitely very common in industry. Same in the line trade. Yeah.
Yeah. But winds, it's interesting.
You mentioned isolation. Is that something that you'd recommend, or just that you see like you should be okay being alone, being in isolation to be, working on projects like this? Is that a thing?
Well, we don't build these things in the cities.
Yeah.
That's the deal. You got to have tons and tons of miles to build something like this. So normally where that is, no one lives there. So yeah, that's part of it. And like, we were talking earlier, you got to have hobbies. You got to have things you can do, with your coworkers just to keep your mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ask those questions because I get questioned a lot, especially from younger people trying to find careers, more trying to find line trade, but definitely this falls into that too. Just like asking about things like what kind of skills you need to get into the trade, get into the industry. And I've never heard that before, but that's true. Like you'd be okay with being by yourself, being alone, or just feeling not necessarily by yourself because you have coworkers and stuff,
Correct.
but very kind of cut off from the rest of the world. Yeah.
I think that's what makes having good relationships with your coworkers so important, because if you do want to do something with a group of people, it's going to be your coworkers. And so we are coworkers, but a lot of the time we're friends outside of that. And you'll see there's a lot of people that travel with their families too, or have other families that work here. So you it makes sense why, like, oh, I'm bringing my family with me. And yeah.
Yeah, we get that quite often as well. Just you have RV parks full of line crews and line crew families just traveling on the road for years, maybe even the whole life.
That's what it's about.
What are some things that you guys do to, like, I guess, bond or whatever? Is there things that you guys specifically, I don't know, you just make an effort to do things together, barbecues, golfing or whatever?
She sets up, trade gatherings, like we went bowling, out to eat, she tries to keep all of us engaged with each other, but this job being as massive as it is, we normally would take like all the superintendents and all the foremans. This one, she had to divide us all up.
Gotcha.
I'm taking civil this month, foundations this month, because it's just too massive, for us to, plus we can't shut down either. Once you start work, it doesn't end until we're way down there.
Yeah. It's a good point though that you bring. So I'm curious about this because as it's going, projects are starting to get bigger and bigger. We're seeing that. We've seen a few like very large scale transmission projects, this being one of them, as well as Gateway that was multi-state. So what are ways that you're helping, get everybody together? Is there times where you can get all supers together or get everybody on the project together? Like, how do you keep and manage relationships?
I think we don't get to do it as often as we want. We are an hour and a half really away from restaurants and that sort of thing, so that makes it challenging. But just trying to make an effort to bring people together, whether it's dinner, bowling. A lot of the times we're breaking up into much smaller groups just because it's hard to get a reservation for 60, 70 people, that sort of thing. But I feel like even if we can't all meet as a group, like there are people that like to go golfing together, people that like to go hiking together, and there's little groups within our teams. And we do try to, every so often, or in this case, when we finish zones, to get all of the trades together, just to do something to show appreciation. And outside of that, I mean, we're all in the office together, so I feel like in the mornings it's like a good from 7 to 8, there's not a whole lot going on, so that's when you'll see everyone kind of chatting together, cutting up, having fun, and I think that's really important. We work 12, 14 hours, so having that time in the day to just bullshit is very important.
And that's usually what first thing in the morning is.
Yeah.
We get all our frustrations out, needs out, what's going on, then the joking starts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she's usually beating on my wall over there. I'm trying to think over here. But, we try to make it as fun as we can, because if you don't, it becomes a misery. So you have to know your peers, know a lot about them to be able to joke with them.
I talk about it quite often, is like those moments are the ones that you often take the most for granted. And those are the ones that you talk about in the future. Like when you talk about the past, like I still talk about the times like when we'd congregate in the show up yard or the lay down, and it was those times where you had 15 minutes of bullshit, or for us it was we'd get dropped off on a tower somewhere and the helicopter would take off and you'd have no tools for 15 or 20 minutes while you waited for the chopper to do another turn, bring you your stuff. And it's in those moments where we're all just like looking at the view and laughing and joking and having a good time. And like, those are the times like that you miss. So for us, it was, take advantage of those times to like build those bonds and connections and kind of like make the memories, so to say.
Well, when I retire, I got a lot of them built from here, just from here.
We'll talk about this project a little bit. What is this project? Run me through it a little bit. Explain, to my audience a little bit about the wind side of a major project like SunZia.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we're in Corona, New Mexico, and we are building a wind farm with 672 turbines. So we're pretty far spread out. It's probably 2-hour drive from the northern tower to the southern. So we're definitely covering a lot of land here. We are in the final zone for our civil work. And then we have our foundations kind of in the 5-6 zone. Collections is also in kind of like the 3-4 stage of completion. And then we have our install group in like the 2nd and 3rd stages. So there's a lot going on, from the top to bottom. And yeah, I don't know, anything else?
Yeah, I would say this job site is just the most massive one that I know both of us have tried to handle. And there's so many moving parts and pieces. And, she said a good thing, 2 hours. When she called me to come to this, it took me 45 minutes by highway. I have some of my guys that leave this yard, hour and 30-minute drive down to where they're working right now. So that's one of our biggest things was windshield time. How do we combat that? You want to start work, say 8 a.m., you're going to drive an hour and a half out, an hour and a half in. So you just lost 3 hours right there of production for the day. And the most dangerous thing we can ask our men to do is drive on a public roadway.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the things we face is on this job. The biggest part is just the trades working together. No one can move until I move, till the roads are built, sites are built. And then you go from there. Mike and Dylan take over with foundations, getting all the foundations put in place. Then we're back again, civil guys. Get it to where the install guys can come in. It's a lot of turning wheels, meshing together to work, and that's what we do in this office every day, is make sure those wheels are turning and align with each other. Because if not, we've had collisions, and it happens.
Not actual collisions.
No, yeah. But I mean, it's like, we're stuck. This trade can't move until this one moves, I think that's what we do the most of, is just trying to ensure that that does not happen. And it takes a lot. I mean, she said it, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, whatever it takes. That's what, when you're on salary, that's what you do,
Is a project of this scale any different than the project of a smaller scale? It's just more of it, bigger. Like, do you treat it any different when you approach it at the beginning, or?
I mean, the work itself stays the same. It's all repetition within every trade, but when you're this far spread out, there's just a lot of challenges that come with that, whether it's just logistically, communication. We have to be in sync with the people that are 45 minutes north of us because our work affects them and their plan. And so there's just a lot of going back to the plan, to the schedule, making sure everyone's in the loop. And then a big factor out here, just kind of being in the middle of nowhere, is getting materials here, getting our people here. Resources are just so far away. So there's a lot of planning and coordination that goes with that, I would say.
A lot. Like anything, we used to call this, when her and I first got here, it was a geographical oddity. Nobody knew where this was. I'm in Corona. Where? Yeah. The sickness? No, the town. And that, like she said, that was the hardest thing. I mean, just getting suppliers to realize where we're at, and you give them a pin drop, I don't know, 30 miles that way they call it?
Yeah.
That is a huge, getting our resources here to build this monster has been real tough.
How do you maintain good communication or establish good communication protocols?
I mean, I don't think it's different from any other job. We use a lot of face-to-face. We have a lot of meetings, but then it's like using Teams, text message, email, just making sure you have that kind of three-way communication with everybody. But
is there any process that you've established or you've brought in, or the two of you have brought in and put in place, that you think anybody else could benefit from using when it comes to communication?
Don't be afraid to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
That we've learned that. It doesn't matter how small of a thing it might be to me, I still listen and take it up. Something that means a lot to you may mean very little to me.
Yeah.
But you can't think like that. Everybody has, things that are important to them. You got to listen, you got to take it up and take it up the chain. And that way you can manage it before it festers and gets into something ugly.
I'd always tell my guys, like, over communicate versus under communicate. Just tell me everything. I don't care if you told me that you stopped for, some chew. Just let me know whatever you stopped. Yeah. So I got, that 15 minutes might affect the rest of my day. So yeah.
And a lot of that is, well-being of people. We have our checks. We know it takes an hour and 30 to get there. And if I'm not getting called back by one of my foremen, where are you? Or if, like, when her and I were doing the microsighting for this job before we even started, we go on walks for hours. No cell service, no nothing.
Yeah.
Someone has me walk 5 damn miles without one bottle of water.
He told me that it was going to be it's quick to get up there. I'm like, oh, well, the road's just down there. Let's walk. It looked really close.
Yeah.
And so then we start walking, and he tore his pants. And then we had to have someone pick us up. And we did 5 miles that day with no water, beaming under the sun.
Yeah.
What did you tell me?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Never again.
Pleading fifth.
He's never been on a walk with me since.
We tried to do, like on that day, I told my foremans, hey, if I'm not back in 2 hours, you better come find me because something is wrong. you know, and you have to talk like that here because
Just there's a lack of service out here too, and so and emergency services is an hour if you're lucky, an hour and a half. So always making sure you know where everyone's at is at all times is really important.
yeah.
What, like, that sounds like a challenge. What other challenges have you faced on this project, and how have you mitigated them?
I would say the big one for me is like, I know you guys haven't drove out here yet, haven't looked. I mean, we're not building in a flat cotton field.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had to, I know it's all in good humor, but, you know, when I'm looking at a 150-foot vertical wall and she goes, you need to put a road up that wall, I'm like, oh boy, okay. And I tell her at the end of the day, she goes, well, how'd you do this? I got 12 feet. You went 12 feet in 10 hours. Yes, ma'am, I went 12 feet vertical. You know, I think when we brought a bunch of teams in that work in flatland and they come out here and they're like, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
You know, but us senior guys that have been here, we've built it, we've done it. If not, if I don't have the answer, give me a little bit. I got some people I can call. We'll get the answer. You know, I think that was the biggest challenge, bringing in all these different people from different areas. Altitude.
Yeah.
Our elevation where we're sitting at.
That's something I didn't realize coming here either. I had no idea.
Sitting at 7,000 feet right
Yeah.
here. How hard is it for you guys to breathe right now? Now imagine going out there and laboring in it. You know, we had to take all that into consideration when her and I were looking at this site, getting ready to build it. We were like, man, this is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm from the Rocky Mountains, and it's funny. Like working for Quanta, you know, we call for some equipment. We need new trucks to haul some of our backhoes and stuff around. You know, in Texas or California, it's pretty easy to haul a backhoe with some of these small engine internationals or whatever. They'd send those trucks to BC, and like,
Wouldn't work.
like, what am I supposed to do with this thing?
Yep.
It barely goes 10 miles an hour. I can't haul this excavator, this cat up a hill with this thing. Like, what do you send it back? But yeah, it's funny when people don't quite understand, you know, when you got to work in mountains or rough terrain. Like,
Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenge too has been that we have people that have been here. We're in 2025 now. Some of us were out here in 2023. That's when we started a lot of this work. Just mentally keeping people engaged. A lot of the people in the industry are used to working on a project for 6 months to a year, and then they go to a new environment and start all over. And that's, you know, pretty normal. But here we're asking people to be out here for a few years in the middle of nowhere. And so just that mental toll that takes on a person, just lack of resources. And then not only that is on a normal project, you can kind of see your progress day to day. But out here, that hasn't always been the case. So there was nothing like a mental check. We're getting closer to the finish line.
Gotcha.
So I feel like that's something that has been a struggle for myself as well. And so one of the things that I do to try and keep people engaged is just really having fun, because I know every day isn't always going to be a good day, but let's cut up, let's have fun, let's talk about the small wins and stuff like that. So I feel like that's something that's...
And we've been taking it in little steps. Like she said, I mean, I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel till last month. My guys could finally go, oh, yeah, it's there. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's been a long road. I mean, it's been 2 solid years. We've been just at it every day.
So what do you do to keep mentally checked in then and keep that mindset? Because you're not only doing it for yourselves, because you guys are human as well. You feel it, but like, how do you keep checked in yourself? And then, you know, other than, you know, making it fun?
Hobbies. I mean, I golf, I build remote control planes and cars and boats, anything to keep. Who wants to drive an hour and a half on your one day off and then an hour and a half back? You know, so you got to find things to do. You know, the common things of let's go drink and this, you can't do that because, I mean, you got one day to heal. It's not enough time. So you got to find other avenues. My brother-in-law and I will sneak off. We'll go golfing. Just reset. Something to go reset, whether it's go get in a Hummer, go blow up cans with shotguns, whatever it is, we'll go do it just to try to get a break. Yeah. She just disappears.
Hey.
2-3 days. I'm hiking. Okay. She likes to go hiking. Great. You just find whatever you can find to get your mind off this for a couple of days.
Yeah, and I think like from a work standpoint it really is celebrating the little wins. Like if there's a problem or a challenge that we've had for a few weeks and things finally work out in our favor, like making it a point to be like, yes, it's going to be a good day. Like, just the little stuff you got to focus on because you can't always see the
big picture.
Big picture.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, little win for like my team. We set 5 months on 78. I had 2 foremen ready to just strangle me because we had to go straight up the side of a mesa and get to the top. But 5 months to get this road to where everybody can, traverse it and use it. And when that was done, yeah.
Yeah, everyone was talking about it. We're like, they finished 78.
Yeah,
It was
barbecue, let's go have a shindig, something.
That's awesome.
Because, it was a hell of a win for us.
Yeah.
It was a monster feat for out here, and lo and behold, we turn around and there's another one. Oh.
We're looking at that one yet.
Yeah. So, like she said, one at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time. How you got to just plan for it, schedule it.
Now, you guys have been on a few projects together now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that dynamic and the importance. I don't know if importance is the right word, but finding a person or a group of people that you can come along with in a career, I think is valuable. I did it in mine. I really enjoyed it. I was talking to you, Chris, about it as well. Like the line crews tend to do that, especially transmission crews, guys that travel around doing transmission projects. They'll find a little group of guys that are good at wire and they click with and they jive with and they get along with and they cruise through and try to stay with that wire crew through job to job to job. How important is that to you? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? That sort of thing.
Well, we'd love that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily work that way.
Sure.
Blattner's a big company. Quanta's a big company. We have a ton of needs that has to be filled other than here. I'd love to keep certain people, but at some point, we've got other jobs to go build. I'm pretty much allotted with, my general superintendent allows me 2 foremen that I can travel with. But my guys, they're not guaranteed. Because when I finish here and say one of my other civil suits need dozer hands, good ones, I'll load all mine up and say, you're going here. I wish that happens. Now, here in management group, I don't know how what shots she gets to pull or strings she can pull to keep, like say me or Dylan or Mike, keep this humble team together. That's her call. Her being the site manager, sometimes she's got enough pull to do that, but it just depends.
I think it just depends. I think as a company, we've always looked at the teams as you don't want one to be a lot stronger. You don't want a strong team and a weak team. So you have to, from the labor to the management, you have to plan to where you're making good teams out of everyone. Because if one job is a success and one fails, then we're not successful as a company. So yeah. There's a lot into that. I think once you're on a job site and you have your team, you do kind of build a relationship. Mm-hmm. I think partly Chris and I have been working together so long that we really get along, but we do also fight and bicker. And I think the good thing about our relationship is we are both very honest with one another. If I have a problem, he knows about it. If he has one, I do. And it makes things
it's not easy. It just makes things bearable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She knows this from the minute I walk in the door. Oh, shit. And I know with her, too. It's just, it helps. But like I said, every day those days she said we fought and bickered, the next day is a reset.
Yeah.
It just starts all over. It's done and over with. Can't hold in grudges. Doesn't help. Just makes things worse. We're here to get this monster built. That's her goal. That's my goal.
Yeah, I think we know each other well enough to know when one of us is having a bad day or
Go
body
this way.
language. I'm like, oh, I'm avoiding him today. He's not happy. And then, there's times that we genuinely care about each other, just as far as like there's time when I needed tires
Oh,
and he's like, give me your truck. I'm tired of seeing those bald tires. And he took my truck in to get tires,
Yeah.
or he's popped the hood on my truck a few times when I don't know what's going on. I'm like, usually I just call my dad, but
that's
usually it's Bruner because, he's out here. And so just genuinely having a good relationship with your coworkers and peers is it's everything
it's
out
the
here.
most.
Yeah. I think those are great leadership skills too. So how important is good leadership underneath you? Like having good leaders that work for you. And then what are you guys doing, or what do you do to develop the leadership beneath you to get them to the point where you want them?
Well, I can start with my guys. I mean, training, teaching, like, let's see what I lifted one superintendent already through lift. I had 2 assistant superintendents. Like anytime I engaged, like say a subcontractor for any reason at all, I'd have one of them there so they could listen, learn, see how to handle this situation. Is it the correct way? I don't know. It works for me.
Yep.
You got to find that niche in there. I expect my teammates to take that down. My foremans are the next generation of me. They'll be taking my spot. So I take every opportunity I get with a foreman is to teach them what I know. Not how to be a better foreman at what they're doing, how to fill my role. Because that's who the people above her are going to be looking for to fill my seat. I'm sure she does the same thing with her PCCs and everything else. I mean, you're constantly training all the time. Our prep talks are generally, maybe we can do it this way next time. Not her way, not my way, somewhere right down the middle that we both agree on. I think working together is way better than that one-way highway. And that happens a lot here.
I love what you're saying about bringing the foreman in to like work with you or see how you do things a lot more. Like a lot of that doesn't happen, I think, because people get insecure about their job position.
You
and
can't do that anymore.
But you need and that's like, there's nothing like immersion to help you learn as quick as you can.
And, I don't know if you've noticed throughout your travels here, there's a huge generation gap of no workers.
Yes, sir.
And then once I'm gone, my generation's gone, it's up to her to try to find people to work. And that's where we struggle the most. There's a lot of people that only want to do what this team right here is doing. If we only do that, nothing's going to get built.
Yeah.
The United States is going to go down if we don't continue to teach.
Yep.
I mean, she teaches me stuff every day. Whether I admit to it or not, I'll never tell her.
So first.
But she knows more about her pickup now, thanks to me.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to teach, even if it's a little bitty thing.
Yeah.
I hate this analogy, but screwdrivers. There's a flat tip and there's a Phillips. How many people do you think know the difference between the two?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think something that small, that's what we teach.
Yeah.
You have to start there.
I think another part of leadership, aside from the training, which is a very important piece, is having that open door policy and being willing to collaborate with people. I feel like the best leaders that I've worked with had that approach, and also you were comfortable with them. You can tell them what you felt when you had questions. I just think that the human aspect of leadership is very important. We all work harder when we know that the people we're working with care about us and vice versa. And so that's, I guess my advice or piece on leadership is just always being willing to talk to the person next to you and just have a conversation. It opens so many doors that way. So.
I agree with you. I think that that's one of the most important things a leader can do is know who is working for them, right? And work, get to know them though, like you said, on a human level, because if you know what makes them happy, you can kind of adjust their work to put them in a position where they're doing something that energizes them and makes them, and that's just going to benefit you. That's going to make your job go quicker and better. If you're putting somebody in a job position that they hate all the time, I get you got to do it sometimes, obviously, but if it's all the time, day after day, that person's not going to last. They're not going to learn anything. They're not going to stick around. Their mindset, everything's going to be shitty. Yeah, I like that. What else have you guys learned together coming through this together?
I've talked enough.
I think if anything I've learned working with Chris, but just this industry, this job is just there's so many people out here. We all come from very diverse backgrounds. We do things differently. We perceive information differently. There's different things that are important to Chris than myself, but we all come together for this one, goal. I definitely appreciate that aspect of us just all being from different parts of the world. and
that brings a lot. I mean, that old saying, if you're not learning something every day, then you're not going to learn anything, right? Yeah. So I still learn things from my foreman. I was like, where did you learn that? Well, it's just something I picked up on, working at the farm. I'm going to remember that one, because it worked here. Will it work in a different scenario? Maybe not, but it's good to put in the memory bank, and if you didn't have people from different places, look at where I've pushed dirt. And when I talk to my dozer hands out here, man, how do I get through this rock? Well, there's technique to it. When you come from pushing sand and red dirt in East and West Texas, and then you come out here to this massive boulder pile we've been set on, it takes a little, different approach at things. But like she said, it's nice to have people that have worked in that scenario. Now you teach these people. So that way, when some of these guys that started here only know rock, when they end up on another job, someone's going to have to teach them how to work in dirt because it's totally different. So having that diversity through here, even in this office, you take my age against her age, think of what I've seen and done in my years, that she hasn't yet. I'll tell her, hey, don't go down that lane, go this way. Yeah. And then her, don't go to Albuquerque. Go to Roswell. Just things like that. Yeah. Help me a bunch out here because I don't like city life. She knows that. So, well, you better go to Ruidoso or go to Roswell. Don't go to Albuquerque. So, and that's where I go. I don't go there.
Yeah.
But.
You said, so like part of my mission with this podcast has always been, I'm deeply passionate about the trade. I absolutely loved it. I'm second generation lineman as well. Mm-hmm. Blue collars so I want to help introduce the trades to as many people as I can. And I've been able to, through this, introduce it to like hundreds of people. Is there a future in this industry that you guys are in, like the renewable side? What does it look like going forward from your perspective? Is there opportunity here for young people to come in and like what are the opportunities like?
There's tons of opportunities. I mean, this can't stop. I mean, as many people as on this planet, we have to use every resource we can. All of them.
Yeah.
Not just some of them. It takes all of it.
I think Quanta is a big company. They have a huge umbrella of different companies below them. So I feel like we hit all the bases with what they have to offer. And just Blattner as a whole, they started out in railroads, and mining, and now we're into this. And so if you're willing to come out and just try something new, I feel like there's a spot for everybody in the construction market, and there's really no limit to what you can do. I know a lot of these companies are very field oriented and they allow you to move up within the company. And so I think that it's anybody wanting to come out here and give it a shot. I would definitely think that there's roadway to be able to do that.
And don't think for 1 minute we haven't had fry cooks. I love it.
Yeah.
But leave that behind you, because now I'm going to teach you something way different. You know, I like the challenge. I know she does. You know, that's what makes us us.
What type of person do you feel best suits this type of career, or a career in this type, sort of industry? If you had to name a list of like attributes or skills you should come with, like when I rattle off for line work, and maybe it's similar, it's like, you know, likes to work outdoors, work with their hands, you know, be okay with the weather and working on the road, and, you know, like that sort of, you know, that sort of a mentality.
And we fall right in there.
Yeah.
That's where we land too. You got to be willing to get dirty. You're going to be dirty, 5-6 days out of the week. That's just part of it, you know. I think the best thing for my guys that I can say is, once you start here on the ground, just like I did, I've had every door I wanted to walk through, I could walk through. No one ever told me I couldn't go any higher. I've always went up. Same thing with her. Come in here as an admin, now look at her, site manager. I come in here as a dozer hand, now I'm civil superintendent. So we don't put the brakes on people. If you want to excel, we'll let you.
I think just in general, it's no different from any other industry. If you're driven, you know, self-motivated and willing to be a part of a team, their opportunities here are endless. So,
any advice being a female to other females? Because I've had a few lady linemen on the show, and I love asking this question because I love like hearing their stories of how they found the trade and why they love it. And like all of them say, like, just freaking get into it. Like, if you got an interest in it, just go. But I feel like that's a block for so many people. But what's your take on it, your perspective?
To be honest, I don't really think of it that much, as I know that there are fewer females in this industry than others, but I've never looked at it as a roadblock. You know, if it's something you're interested or think that you can do, why wouldn't you give it a shot? I don't really see the barrier myself, but again, I have been doing this for 10 years now. But
I think the biggest thing to remember too is I don't see her that way. She's my coworker. Yeah. We're taught here we don't see color. We're all here the same.
Yeah.
And
that's it right there.
You have to be able to take that step in and know that I don't see her as a lady. I do, but when I'm here, she's site manager. That's where the respect level is. Yeah. And that's the way she sees me. She doesn't see me as old. That's my civil superintendent. You know, and I don't look at people that way. And I know she doesn't either. So.
And one thing I would say is, like, some women might be scared to get into the industry for maybe fear of not knowing. But just like there are things that my male coworkers are going to be better at, there are things that I'm better at than them. And so it's no different whether you're male or female. Everybody brings something new and different to the table. And, you know, really just capitalize on what you can offer the team. And if you do that, then you really no barrier.
Like we need to recruit from everywhere. Everybody. And that's why I love questions like that. And I love the answers, because it can be anybody. And that's what I want to get across, is like, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, just there's room in the industries for you. So come to the trades, because it's a good spot to be, and you can make a great life. You can make a great career, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Nope, nothing at all.
What are, and this question is only to make people better, and make leadership better, make us work better. But is there anything from here to upper leadership that you think that maybe they need to hear or they're not hearing? And the reason I ask that is because like I've sat in the big presidents meetings and I've heard from them, and like one of the things they say a lot is like, we need to get out to the field more and we need to hear from the field more. So from the field perspective, because you guys are as close to it as, what's something that they maybe need to hear that they're not hearing or haven't heard yet, if anything?
I would say that it's maybe something that they've heard, not necessarily haven't heard, but just where we're at and some of the stuff that Chris has hit on with just newer people to the industry or construction in general, that learning curve, it's much longer, larger than it's been in the last 5 or 10 years. And I feel like they just don't maybe always understand how long it's taking us to get people from here to here and the strain that that puts on a team or the planning or production. It really is a big piece of kind of where we're at with the, I don't want to say younger generation because I feel like I'm talking about my own generation.
Well, the biggest problem is, 30 years ago, we were all farming.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a farm. That's where I learned to work.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of those anymore. So as far as like the younger generation, they weren't given the opportunities I was given. That's just the way it is, but you cannot be afraid to come out here and learn. There are people here willing to teach. Like she's trying to tell our leadership, instead of taking 30 days to prime someone to get in this machine, it's taking 90 days because you're taking someone that only knows a video game controller or a keyboard. Now you've got joysticks, throttles, pressure, everything else that has to be learned.
Yeah.
In my field, there's one seat in those machines, not two. So training in a dozer is very complicated. That's me on the ground or my foreman on the ground with the radio going, no, not that lever, the other one.
Yeah.
And you sure don't take them up on top of a mesa to teach. We teach them down, where it's flat and safe and we've already been. But that's where you start, and then you end up in the lead fighting.
I think that's a good point as well. Like I didn't come from a farm, but I came from 5 acres and no video games. Mom kicked us outside the door as soon as the sun came up, and she didn't let us back in the house till after dark or
Street lights are on.
supper time.
That's right.
Like,
That's the way I was raised.
I built forts, so I learned how to find material to do that and learned how to swing a hammer, or rode dirt bikes. I learned how to operate a clutch and a throttle and these sorts of things, where when I transitioned into becoming a lineman, it was kind of just a natural fit. I was comfortable at heights because I climbed trees and built tree forts. I was kind of, you know what I mean? A lot of kids aren't doing things like that anymore. So just, you're right on the learning curve. They're not learning those things early on in life. It doesn't mean they can't learn them and that they don't want to. They just
takes a little
no exposure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good point. I like that. All right, a couple more questions. We'll wrap it up. What makes a good leader? I really want to drive this home from your guys' perspective. We've touched on a lot of the good points, but if you could just break it down into like what makes a good, solid leader.
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too long-winded, but just a few things. Open door policy, transparency, honesty, and integrity. There's just 4 very basic things that just go a long way. It shows your team that they can trust you, rely on you, and I feel like if you have, transparency, respect, you're always going to have a good relationship, even if you may not agree with the plan or what's going on. If you can trust an individual, it just goes so far with me anyways. So
That's exactly where I stand.
Yeah.
We operate identical.
That's probably why you guys work so well together.
I mean, you'll never see her door shut. You'll never see mine shut. Yeah. It doesn't matter what meeting we're in, what we're doing. It's always open.
I think you nailed it. Like if you want to build a good team, you build off of those principles, and there's nothing that you can't really do or accomplish together. No matter the size of the project, the biggest renewable energy project in America's history, you guys are, a part of leading that. So, yeah. Proudest moment so far on SunZia project?
You got to go first. I got to think about it.
The proudest moment I'm going to have is hitting that last turbine right there. Yeah. No, I mean there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on this one. There's no lie there, even from her end. I mean I'll be glad to see the end of it. And I mean it's taken a lot. I wished I could mention everyone that helped make this possible, but it is a huge team effort. And there's no way one person could have done this. No way.
Very cool.
Not a specific moment, but I think that just because we're in a small community, one of the greatest rewards here working out here is there's a handful of people in town that I've just become really close with. And Blattner has been able to help them, Pattern has been able to help, and just really be a pivotal role in the community here. And so I'm most proud of the way that we've integrated with them, and they've welcomed us, and it's just been a really great relationship. So I think for me, that would be.
It's kind of special when you can like boost a community, like, and when it's a small, not necessarily struggling community, but you probably had hardships. Like it's pretty cool when
it is pretty cool because everyone in that town knows who she is. They know who I am.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yep.
Well, great guys. Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much for your time again.
Thank you.
I hope you guys got some value out of that episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to draw your awareness to a couple of other things. So we make these podcasts, yes, but it's not the only thing that we put out as far as content. Our social medias are full of valuable cuts from the podcast itself, as well as just a bunch of other educational stuff and entertainment. So go follow us at Powerline Podcast on all social media platforms. And then also YouTube. I don't think that a lot of you are aware of this, but we don't just load these podcasts onto YouTube. We also make vlogs, which are super educational, entertaining, great place to direct people to learn about the industry, learn about the trade, or just learn about what's going on within either Quanta or the Powerline industry in general. So hit up our YouTube channel. Again, it's at Powerline Podcast. You can catch those vlogs on there. We also load a bunch of other extra content in video form. We try to up the quality every time we do this. We try to up that quality. So hit up the YouTube channel and make sure you're subbed to all those platforms. Appreciate you guys. Hope to see you again soon. We will see you again soon. Peace.